Excellent. Thank you very much, Hazel. Yeah, my name is Paddy Shepherd, Senior AI Specialist at Jisc. My background is FE in computing and teaching, so I've tried to come up today with some examples and demos that hopefully will resonate and be able to use. But this session is following really a first session looking at what is AI, and then this is really how do we use it and a few ideas for people. I have also got a YouTube playlist with some demos as well, so some examples to share with you. But getting into the session then, this is called How Can AI Improve Productivity? As I always say, generative AI is quite useful for getting us started. It's always useful as an assistant in that respect, but certainly we still need to put some work into it. Just to let you know as well around what the artificial intelligence team at Jisc does, we run a number of pilots with AI tools, and some people who are with us today have maybe taken part in one of our Teachermatic pilots, where we review and evaluate the AI tool with our members and then try to produce advice and guidance around that. This session really falls under our advice, guidance and training to try and support the sector with AI literacy. We also have two community groups, one for further education, one for higher education, but we'll share with you towards the end of the session a link if you would like to join up one of our community groups. They meet once a month, usually through the term time, and talk all things AI. It's just online, and then they share best practice or share ideas or share whatever they're coming across. So it's quite a lot of those sessions really do work quite well. And then we speak at a number of external events and activities. So in this session as well, we're going to explore how AI tools can serve as personal assistants to produce productivity, to boost productivity. We'll also discuss some practical strategies integrating AI into daily workflows, focusing on routine tasks really. I would like to highlight, we consider AI as an assistant. We still need to use our human judgment. We've got the artificial intelligence, but we've also got our human intelligence. So do review whatever it generates. We're going to explore how generative AI tools can assist with things like drafting emails, creating summaries, generating content. And then we'll also explore how AI is being used to streamline various tasks, so a few ideas. So as I say, thinking about AI as an assistant, there are benefits here as well. We can use AI to help reduce time on routine tasks. I certainly do. I use it quite often as a sounding board to give me ideas to help with that blank page syndrome. But also thinking about assisting with planning. So giving me those ideas. Oh, I'm thinking about my teaching. This isn't working. What could I do to do differently to work with this group on Friday afternoon maths, for example? So generative AI really can act as an assistant in automating routine tasks. But what I would like to do before we get started with these demos is ask you a few questions. I'm going to pop in the chat now the link to this. And there is a link to a Slido for these two questions. So the first question is, how often do you currently use AI tools in your workflow? I'll just pop them in, there we are, it's gone in the chat for you. Or you can go to slido.com and using the code 471, you'll be able to join, but I can see some people already on there. So how often do you currently use AI tools in your workflow? It's just there's no judgment here. It's just to get a gauge of where people are at and if they've had time to explore it yet or not. Thank you, George. Pop it in the chat as well. I will quickly say as well, with Teams, we have the Q&A open as well as the chat. So Hazel's monitoring that throughout the session, so do ask your questions. But if you have got access to the Q&A, just for simplicity, pop them in there. But do discuss things as well in the chat. Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll just take a minute or so more on that one. So we're starting to see a real mix here. Weekly, never, daily, and rarely. Absolutely. So it's about looking for, I suppose, about what works for you and within your role and thinking about it on a personal level. Got a few more coming in. Excellent. Okay, well, we'll move on to question 2. I know people may still be joining, but we'll have a go with question 2 just so we've got time for some demos and some Q&A at the end. So the second question then to you is, what is your biggest concern when using generative AI tools? Because there certainly are concerns around it. Data security, confidentiality, ethical implications. There certainly are these concerns. So if you have time around any concerns around generative AI and these things like data, confidentiality, I know you probably are on summer holidays, but we'll be running these again in the autumn. And I run 1 hour online webinars, which are completely free and you can join. And we will look at AI safety, we will look at data. We've actually got them not next week, but the week after. We've got one running every day at lunchtime. And again, I'll share the link for that and you can sign up and join on for those. But the main questions that I'm seeing here is concerns around data security. I would say, number one, the GDPR and Data Protection Act work exactly the same with AI as they do with any IT system you use. So anonymize data if you haven't got a contract in place, or don't publish data or put data into there if it hasn't got any data protection protocols within it. Usually, if you've got a system that you're using in your organization, that contract's already been signed. So say you're using Microsoft Copilot, in the educational enterprise version, data is safe and secure. So it doesn't learn from your prompts, it doesn't store any of that data. In reality, it's not very useful data for an AI tool. People putting that information in, what they want to do is answer questions and produce resources. They don't want to suddenly pop up with people's information, but data security is certainly a concern. I will give links as well to our training, so do feel free to join those later on where we look into that a bit more. And also our blog, the AI Jisc blog site, which I'll share a link to our mailing list later on, has got lots of information around it. Quality is a concern as well. Yep, certainly the quality. These AI tools do not have the right to know whether their answers are correct or not. All they do is try and predict the next word in a sequence of words. So certainly that's where we come in, and we need to review the quality and use it as an assistant rather than a decision maker. That it will take more time, not less time. It depends on what you use it for. Certainly I use it for my proofreading. It's a lot quicker than asking somebody else to do that for me. Incorrect information, absolutely. It doesn't know whether the information is correct or not. So it's down to us. We can think back to our days of media literacy and seeing those headlines and thinking, is that right? Or is it snowing right now? Or is that an old article that I'm seeing on social media, for example? Those sorts of things. There are certainly concerns around ethics and hallucinations and who owns it. I think in time we might get more answers around ownership. At the moment, it's all being discussed. Hack and data security, just like any IT system. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And ethical issues. Really useful, really interesting. I will point out the other training that we have as well, because I think in this session, we're really going to focus on using it in a safe way as well. So I'm going to move on and we're going to look at, people may have used this. This is a tool called Teachermatic. You may have been part of our pilot. But Teachermatic is a tool where you can type in a very simple prompt. You don't need to be, you don't need to really think too hard about the prompts. And this one, for example, has got a generator for a lesson plan. And in this lesson plan, I would like the lesson to be based on an introduction to Python. I would like it to be 60 minutes. They've integrated as well into Teachermatic Bloom's taxonomy of learning. So I would like this lesson to be focusing on knowledge and application. We can also choose within the generator around learning needs, so dyslexia and autism spectrum disorder, where this is now the prompt. It's put the prompt together, and the prompt is where we type in, please create me a lesson plan on Python. I would like it to be for 60 minutes long to focus on knowledge and application, for example. But this does the hard work for you. So many institutions are using Teachermatic, but it will generate a lesson plan. Now, this is not a finished lesson plan. This is that assistant. This is the idea generation point of view. It's come up with differentiation as well in there. It's come up with a few ideas. If I just scroll back to the end there. So this is where it can be useful to give us a few ideas. Now, we would still need to put it into our own template, which you can actually do in Teachermatic, but we would need to obviously suit it to our learning outcomes, but it's somewhere we can start off and certainly getting some ideas from it. We also have, now I'm hoping the sound will work for this, a video that I'm just going to play. Hopefully the sound will work.
Welcome to our introduction to generative AI in education. Today we explore how these technologies are impacting learning and teaching. Note, this is just a demo to show AI-generated content. Generative AI impacts education significantly.
So this is a video that we've created using a tool called Synthesia. And actually later on you're going to be shared a link to our YouTube site where I've used Synthesia to create some demo videos with an avatar, my avatar that I've trained. And the timings are interesting, but I've been able to create these training videos with demos and examples of how to use Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini in teaching using that avatar. The benefit of it is when things change, I can quickly go back in and change the text. So I've written a script, I've copied that in there, and then my avatar speaks in a video format like this. So it's much quicker to change and update rather than having to re-record all the videos and the demonstrations and try and get everything right. Interestingly, the accent changes slightly with one of my avatars, but we can change the way you present information. This would have taken a long time to create a little video like this, but it took 10 minutes just to create this from a script. Now you can use your own avatars if you train it on that, or you can use their own pre-made avatars. But I guess there's different ways that we can present information. There are risks with this, for example, misinformation. You could type in a script with misinformation around something, and somebody might think that that's the person saying it. I'm certainly seeing a lot of those on social media at the moment with misinformation and people putting things into videos. But it's using it in balance and actually being honest, saying, yeah, I've created these videos using an AI tool. But being aware of that back to those media literacy and information literacy days that we talked about. So thinking about this and using it responsibly, I can see that in the chat. So concerns around data. If you're using a tool like Canva, for example, that hasn't got an institution, you haven't got a contract in place with them and haven't read the terms and conditions, I would say avoid inputting, go back to the data minimization regulations within the GDPR and Data Protection Act. Avoid inputting sensitive and necessary data into an AI tool, and then aggregate or anonymize data wherever possible. But what I would say with something like Canva, you're creating maybe videos, presentations, infographics and posters. You probably won't actually put into their students' names and addresses or details anyway. So it's using it in the right way. If, for example, you're using Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, the education accounts, your institution has probably already, and check this out, signed a contract to make sure that the data is safe. So for example, with Microsoft Copilot, if you're using some student data within it, it's the same as if you were saving student data to a OneDrive. You would follow the same processes, making sure you don't give your password out, those sorts of things. But data protection principles apply to AI just like any other IT system. Data should be adequate, relevant, limited to what is necessary in relation to the purpose of why it's being processed. So we follow those processes already. I wouldn't put onto a blog post students' names and addresses, but I would store that on a database within my institution. It's following those rules really. Now, all the examples we've got today are really about generating content. They aren't really about processing data, but just wanted to cover that. So thinking about using AI for simple tasks, if we compare using AI to standard previous methods that we would use. For example, if I wanted to search about a topic and research about information, I'm going to present a new topic to my students. I've not covered this before. I didn't learn it at university on my degree. My background was computing, so that would happen quite often. I would research on the internet. I would research through websites and databases. And then when I need to create my presentation, I would manually summarize that information, which would take quite a bit of time, obviously. I'd create my presentation in PowerPoint, say, and then once I created my presentation, perhaps I needed to give my students a guide. Well, I would then use that information. I would look at other guides, perhaps as a starting point, and start typing that up in Word, copying some information perhaps from my presentation. Whereas if we now think about generative AI and how it can improve our productivity, I could ask an AI tool like Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini or ChatGPT to summarize a topic based on a prompt. So please summarize this information about, I don't know, social media, for example. Then once I've got that information and I fact checked that information, I've viewed the sources, I've checked whether it's correct, that's where I have to come in, yeah? I would then generate a presentation based on the information. So I could then ask it, please generate a presentation outline based on this information. Once I'm happy with my presentation, I will say that actually the presentations that many of these AI tools generate aren't always accessible. So we need to think about the accessibility when we're presenting them. So I need to go and do that. But I could then ask, here's my presentation, please create a guide in Word based on this. Here's a template, and it will get that information from my presentation. It will create that guide. Now that process with the AI tool is much quicker. I'm still involved, but it is much quicker than the traditional method. It's just one idea. So using, for example, an AI tool like Microsoft Copilot, and this example is using the enterprise version. I know that because I've got the little green tick on the top right hand side there, so I know that anything I put into here is safe. It won't go in to train the model at all. For this example, I'm writing an email, and the prompt I use, so the input, I need to write an email to a guardian about their students' recent disruptive behaviour. And in class, the tone should be professional yet empathetic. So I'd like an idea. Whether I send this or not is up to me. I straight away at the beginning, I can see, I hope this message finds you well. Perhaps I'm not going to use that, but it's an idea. At the end of the day, if I use this and I pop it in an email and I send it to the parent, they think it's coming from me, obviously. So I'm responsible for that. Over the past few weeks, I've noticed several instances of disruptive behaviour that affect both the learning environment, and then it's asked for the student name, and own academic progress. This behaviour includes, and then ask for some examples, which have been challenging for both myself. Now, it might be quicker for me to write this email myself. I completely agree with that. But this is for those end of day tasks where you think, I haven't really got the brain capacity right now to write this simple email. I could then ask, can you adjust the email to include examples of behaviour and add a sentence about how committed we are to helping the student to succeed? So again, a few ideas. So we have here a slight change, so it's going to change what I've already given it. Again, it's still got that sentence note, if you like, but I'm writing to discuss a recent observation regarding the student's behaviour in class over the past few weeks. I've noticed several instances of disruptive behaviour affecting both the learning environment and own academic progress. This includes, and then towards the next paragraph, I understand that there may be an underlying reason for these actions, and I'm committed to work together with the student to make positive changes. So I might change the tone of this, but a few ideas. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm going to send an email, I want it to sound like it's for me, but I might pick some of this out. Over time, it can learn how you write, and you can say, please write in my style. But then we can really review it and think about it from that point of view. I could then ask, could you polish this email to ensure that the tone is formal and yet empathetic? And check for UK spelling. So naturally, these tools will respond in American spelling. Now, you can change in Microsoft Copilot the setting to UK English. However, mine keeps reverting back to to American English, so be aware of that. But it's now reviewed the email. I could then, in theory, copy and paste that and pop that into an email. But just to also highlight while we're here, at the top you can see AI-generated content may be incorrect. The absolute vast majority of these AI tools will highlight that to the user. So it's important to obviously critically assess it and check whether it's what you want to say. So on to another example now. And this might be, I thought I'd introduce this as this time of the year. And this is an example of getting ideas around creating course schedules. So you might be planning for next year. I remember it very well. So this is a prompt. I need help in creating a curriculum plan for level 2 IT course in 2025-2026 academic year. We have 9 hours of teaching per week. Obviously, they've got additional around that. And we've got 34 weeks in total. Please suggest how I could deliver this unit and spread it across the academic year, taking into account half terms, breaks, Christmases and Easter holidays. 2 weeks for work experience. Now, I haven't detailed when the work experience is yet because I don't know when it is. The goal is to ensure a balanced coverage of all the units throughout the year. And then I've already pre-prepared my content. So I've already got my units there. I've got the credits and then all the hours and all the ideal hours, as it were, and then the assignments. So I've given it some information around what I already know about the course next year. So it's, again, a few ideas. I've given it some information, and then it will generate. So it's summarized for me, total teaching hours, hours per week, effective teaching hours and weeks. And then it's put it into a table quite nicely for me. So we can see here, it's broken that down to the tables, hours, assignments, So it's suggested that this is going to leave 18 hours for revision, assignment support, catch up, and so on. So it's suggesting in the autumn term that I have got 14 weeks, spring term 11 weeks, summer term, and it's breaking it down now. And then we're going to go ask suggested delivery plan. So it's suggesting Unit 1 and Unit 2 and start Unit 9 in autumn term 1. And it's suggesting that we break it down in that way. So we start one of them obviously long and thin. Spring term, again, it's given me suggested units and revision and then support at the end. Now, it doesn't know when the work experience is, but it's breaking it down into which units at what time. It's an idea. That might not work in practical terms, but just to get a view of the year. I could then ask, please show this in a Gantt style timeline, and it will generate that for me. So I think this is where it's great at visualizing data and showing data. Now, I haven't given it any sensitive information there, by the way. I've given it all the publicly open qualification body requirements and which anybody can access. So here we've got it breaking it down, so the number of weeks along the bottom, and then the units, Unit 1, Unit 2, and so on all the way through. I would always review this to check that the hours are correct. So Unit 20 is that only that many hours. Also, it may not know exactly when half term is for your institution, but it's, and you know, I can go in and fill that in. You could continue to prompt and you could ask for more, but you can then at the bottom ask, export it for a PDF as well, so you can then download it. And it's offering that out to us as well. So a few suggestions there. We can also use AI tools for summarizing meeting notes. So summarize my training notes. I have taken key takeaways and action points. So for this one, we've got the meeting notes that I've already summarized for a meeting. I've typed them in there or I've written them down. Just to point out, you could say I was taking meeting notes on an old fashioned, whether you can see that or not, pen and paper. I could also take a photo of my notes, upload it into Copilot, so you can upload it with the, as we can see on the bottom right hand side there in the orange, yellow. I could upload the photo and ask it to do the same as well. It doesn't just have to be typed in there. So I've got my notes and I'm asking for to summarize it. And quite quickly, it's given me the key takeaways from my meeting, especially when you're back to back with meetings, and then the action points, which at the end of the day is the important thing for me. So it's given me action points, which I could then take away and do. So quick summary, especially when you're back to back with meetings, take a photo, upload it into there. This is within my environment. We've got the enterprise protection, so it's not going to go anywhere. And I've got my summary as well. So thinking now really around teaching and lessons. Now we saw the Teachmatic one earlier on, but you could also do this in all these AI tools as well, ChatGPT and so on. So my prompt here is, I'm planning a geography lesson for 16 to 17-year-olds. Remember, it's the same as if we're ordering a coffee. We need to have a discussion with somebody and tell them what coffee we'd like, soy latte and so on, what details. So it helps when you're giving information like the age group. It won't necessarily know UK level 1, level 2 or level 3, for example, but if I give it a bit of guidance here. So I'm planning a geography lesson for 16 to 17-year-olds on climate change. Can you help me draft some objectives? Quite quickly, it's helped me draft some objectives. Now I might take it from the specifications, give it a bit more detail as well. This is just to show the capabilities of these tools. So it's given me quite a few there, possibly too many for 1 hour. Can you suggest a lesson plan for 60-minute lesson for for the same group of learners? Now, if I just go through this video, it's given me an objective. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to understand the cause and impacts and solutions related to climate change and be able to discuss the topics critically. It's quite a lot in an hour. But we've got a few we've got an opening, we've got defining what climate change is, a discussion, then we've got impacts, part of the lesson, and then we've got mitigations, personal reflection and conclusion. So again, whether that would work for my students, that's down to me really to work out, but it's an outline, isn't it? Then we could ask, how could I differentiate my lesson for learners with different learning needs? Now, this is where I find it quite useful. So varying instruction methods, so visual learning, use videos, infographics. Some of these might be quite obvious, we do them anyway, but a few other suggestions: flexible grouping, choice boards I saw pop up there, and we'll go back up and have a look at that in a second. Choice boards was one that seemed to work. in the afternoon lessons quite well. Most learners absolutely love that. Scaffold support. And I think quite often we'll go back to what works for us. Oh, that will work, won't it? But actually, it's just getting a few other ideas as well for the lessons. But it's given the context as well for this lesson that we're talking about. And then looking for additional resources. So thinking about blended learning and thinking about learners doing work outside the classroom potentially. Can you recommend some interactive tools or resources to use during this lesson? Now, this is that research piece where I would have to spend a while looking for additional resources that I could then point my learners to go and look at. I could link this to my VLE then, and they could go and have a look. And actually, I would always review these. This one's come from the government website. So looking at that might be quite good. I click on it so you can see it there. You can see the number 1 because that's the source. Clean collection as well, and that one I think's got games on it, looking at it, but I could quite quickly go and review those and then say to learners, here we are, yeah, that one's got the videos, here's something to go and do outside of class, please go and do that. And I think that one, as I say, had a game, but before that would take me quite a bit of searching on the internet to find, but just from that simple prompt, please suggest some resources for this, or interactive resources. As I say, and I'll repeat it, review it, but a few ideas. Google Earth we could use there. And at the bottom, we can see those sources. So the number 1 earlier on, further up, number 2, and so on. I could go and have a view of them. So a few suggestions and ideas. Creating presentations as well. I'm actually now, in this example, using Canva. Many people already use this, but Canva will create presentations. It smartens up existing presentations. But here they've included generative AI within the tool. Rather than going to ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, many tools like Quizzes, Kahoot, and Canva have now integrated generative AI. In this example, you can either paste in text. So I'm going to paste in some text that I've actually generated using ChatGPT around a lesson plan. So I asked for a lesson plan and a few suggestions. You can also generate from a 1-line prompt. So I wouldn't need to go to ChatGPT. I could then ask, please create me a lesson on this. Or you can upload an existing file or a PowerPoint that you already have. So as I said, I've created this outline using ChatGPT, the impact of climate change on UK agriculture. And I've got my outline, but I now need to make it into a lesson. So Canva, this is using the free account, and I think you get up to 10 slides per presentation. But it's got these you can edit how you would like the presentation to look. So I want it to generate the presentation with the information. I could then choose how much text I'd like on each card, brief, medium, detailed. I can then write who I'm aiming this for, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, for example, or UK agricultural professionals. And then I can input what I would like the tone to be, and then change the language. So obviously it's UK English, not the default American English. I can also ask for AI images to be input in there. Now, the one thing with the images for this one, it doesn't actually reproduce the images every single time. It does have its own stock library. So environmental concerns from that point of view, it's not generating multiple times. It does look at its stock library before it would generate some. So here it's generating that quite quickly. And it's gone off and it's found this information. So it's gone off and it's searched around all the data that it has. Some stats. Now I would need to double check this. Hopefully I would know it quite well if it's my own topic anyway, but it's pulling all that information into one place. I think it does return better results if it's all the information that you've given it, because obviously you know that that's usually correct in the first place, whereas this right now is pulling it from elsewhere. But as we can see, it's generated a nice presentation, 10 short slides there with the information on it. Some of the images I might change as well. That's down to me to critically assess. I can then export it as a PowerPoint or as a PDF and download it and open it like that as well. So that is called Canva for that one. Going back to traditional tools now, or not traditional tools, but AI tools, sorry, using Copilot again. Can you help me generate discussion topics on workshop on leadership skills? So for this one, I would like a few ideas around discussion topics that I could have at the beginning of my lessons, say 1 a week, for example, or we're going to have a whole afternoon 2-hour lesson on discussions. I could then ask, could you make this change the level? So it's come out with all those different topics. So for example, handling conflicts, motivating others, I could then ask for it to change the level. I'd like to use it with my level 2s and my level 3s, for example. So we can change the tone. That's where it's quite useful. So it's going to review what it's already created, and then it would change the tool. What makes a good leader, for example, ethics in leadership. And then I could ask, can you suggest some more topics to add? I don't like all those topics. I know I'm going to pull some of them out. But it's a few discussion topics. So those questions are why trust is essential in leadership, and how to build it within the team, for example. But I could ask for those ones as well. And then I could ask for it to be organized, because actually I've got all those topics now. I haven't got time to really organize it myself. So I could then ask, please group them by theme to guide the conversation. So I'm thinking I'm going to do this over a semester or over a term, and I need to build up with some of these topics. So we've got understanding leadership first, we're all going to have discussions around. Then professional development obviously follows on, and it's organized into that way. Communication and relationship, team management. Now, whether I put it out in this order is up to me, but it's a suggested out outline there. Excellent. Okay, so on to another one now. Learning activities. I think, again, getting a few ideas. Can you help me generate learning activities for a workshop on critical thinking? So we're still almost on around that business management and ideas way topic. But we've got a suggestion around debate sessions. Divide participants into small groups and assign them with different sides of controversial topics. Give them time to research and prepare their arguments. We've got case studies, questioning, problem-solving challenges, role plays, group discussions. So a few ideas: fishbowl discussions, mind mapping. And I think this is actually the bits that take the time to make as well. So can you simplify these activities for beginners? And it's obviously thought about, when you think about differentiation and the learners and the group that you have, perhaps change it down. So it's chosen those, and then either use the original prompt, the original content it had generated, and now it's changed the level of it. I could then, could you suggest some more like we did before? Because, let's get a few more ideas. And then in the same way, we could then ask for it to be organized as well. So we can see on here storytelling, facting versus opinion, yes, no questions. If it's, we could then ask, please create a brainstorming session on this topic, and then we could continue that chat as well with it. Please organize these by individual type, interactive on learning objectives, and it's organizing it by individual activities, group activities. So then I've got my pick and mix. I've got this ready to go. We've got a few ideas, but we could then ask for it to create some of these. Can you please create the easy puzzle based on the topic? Think, pair, share. So it's taking it that level further. But this was just, as I say, looking at creating learning activities. Thinking about assessment now, and thinking about multiple choice questions. This is where generative AI can quite quickly create us some questions. So create me a MCQs to assess 18-year-olds learners' understanding of Newton's first law in motion. Can you help me craft some clear questions? So we've got quite quickly some questions. So we've got our question, we've got our answer, and a little bit of feedback there. So I could copy and paste that, put that into Microsoft Forms, Google Forms, or into my virtual learning environment. I would always fact check these in case they're wrong, because it hallucinates. So it may come up with something that it is completely incorrect. It has no way of knowing. But we've got those. Great. I've got some questions. Then going into the topic a bit more. Can you suggest realistic distractors for an MCQs on Newton's first law that might reflect common misconceptions? So I want some more targeted questions now. And again, quite quickly, it's generating a question and an answer. So we've got multiple answers with a bit more detail that the learners need to read. I always remember delivering lessons with tools like Kahoot, and students just want to click as quick as possible to get the highest score, but they're not actually looking at what the question and the answer is. So, think about what learning is taking place. But here we've got a bit more detail, haven't we? But we know with multiple choice questions, as I say, learners can really jump through quite quickly. But we could then ask, how can I ensure MCQs on Newton's law go beyond simple recall and encourage deeper understanding. So this is where I'm using the chatbot, because I know that actually learners will go through quite quickly. They could even use ChatGPT to answer these questions. So I would like to really get them thinking. So to ensure Newton's law goes beyond simple recall and encourages deeper understanding, you can incorporate the following strategies. So application-based questions. So it's given me an example. Create a scenario where students must apply Newton's first law in real-world situations. So we've got the example here. A car suddenly stops, a passenger moves forward. Which of Newton's law explains this in motion and why? So a little bit more detailed, and they're hopefully going to have to think about it a bit more. So again, we've got a few more questions around this, a few more ideas. Well, I'm seeing people use ChatGPT and things and Microsoft Copilot in this way in class, where quickly they're realizing, oh, those learners, I need to stretch them over there. Let's get some multiple choice questions. Let's really assess whether they're understanding this. And this is where it can benefit. We could even ask at the end of that then to download it or copy it. So please put that into an Excel file for me so then I can upload it into there. But it's just a few ideas. As I say, always fact check it. Now, quizzes, and thinking about multiple choice questions just one step further, they've integrated AI within their platform. So before we would go to Kahoot for quizzes or quizzes, we would go to Canva to create presentations, and we would always go to these separate tools. Now, I suppose with generative AI and using Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT and Gemini, you could do it all within there. But to make things a bit easier for people, Quizzes has actually integrated generative AI into there. Now, this was me using the free account. And what I'm doing here is I can generate with AI. So if I go back that one very quickly there, you can actually upload like you could in Canva. And you could, or in here, you can use generative AI with a simple prompt. So I'm going to input a simple prompt. So generate. I'm going to upload a document as well. So I've got a information already. So I've got information around photosynthesis. But I would like it to create from my PDF, from my Word document, a set of questions for the quiz. And then in theory, I could run it in my lesson. It's asking for different levels. Now, I would suggest that whether it knows UK level 1, level 2 or level 3, you would have to review the questions. But then at the bottom, I could then generate the quiz. So I've uploaded my document and it's now going to generate that quiz for me. It takes a few moments to obviously generate and read through my PDF, my material to create that quiz. But before I do remember spending a chunk of my week, some weeks, just typing in questions, thinking about, right, I need to assess these learners for formative rather than summative. And what am I going to assess them with and how can I do that? So it's just converting it. It's just going to, let me move it forward slightly. Here we go, because it's just going to take a bit of time. So here we go. We can see that we've got multiple choice. What is the main purpose of photosynthesis in plants? And it's given me that quiz. So I could quickly pop that out. It's a different way. I mean, you could do that in Microsoft Copilot or Gemini, but it's a different way. I could save it and then I could create that live link for learners as well. And that's based off my information as well. So it should be hopefully ring fenced within that. Thinking about writing assignments for scenarios, I'm trying to contextualize them, update them. I'm creating an assignment for A-level business studies course. Can you suggest scenarios that the learners can apply their knowledge to marketing? So here it is writing me an assignment brief. It's got in there all the things I would expect. So the 4 Ps, SWOT analysis, background, and it's even given me, if I just go back ever so slightly, a company name called Ecotech. So Ecotech have hired your marketing team to develop a comprehensive marketing strategy to launch EcoSmart, and then the task. Again, I would review this. I would need to make sure this hits my qualification body requirements, but it's given me a few ideas. Can you suggest specific challenges this company might face in marketing their product and how learners might respond? So I'm trying to include a challenge within my assessment. So marketing awareness and education, they've got a challenge. EcoSmart has a new product and potential customers may not be aware of the benefits and how it works. So I could have different challenges for different learners within the class. So they're not all necessarily on the same, on that scenario, they're not all on the same one necessarily. I could keep asking for these and get different ideas. consumer trust, distribution channels, budget constraints. It's coming out with all of those different ideas. And I think when you're assignment writing, you kind of get into a pattern of writing and thinking, oh, goodness me, what am I going to base this one on now? I could then ask, how can I ensure that this scenario allows learners to demonstrate their knowledge of marketing strategies and critical thinking? We know that generative AI, many students can just answer using these tools. We know that there's no silver bullet out there as well. So picking up assessment and really thinking about how we're assessing them, I think, is only one way that we may be able to help. So we've got here clear objectives and expectations, so all the things we know, provide a detailed rubric, all the things we probably do day to day anyway. But we might hopefully have a little nugget in here, an idea. So structured frameworks, guided question templates. I think the real one here is real world relevance of current trends, encourage students to incorporate current marketing trends and technology rather than out of the textbook, as it were, which was published 5 years ago. Critical thinking challenges, so present potential challenges to the scenario with sudden increase in competition or consumer, or a problem solving task. So a few ideas. Collaborative work, encourage students in working in teams. Peer review, they're reviewing each other's rather than just that written essay. Assessment on critical thinking. So I know this depends on the qualification body as well, but justification of choices, so require students to justify their marketing decisions with data and logical reasoning. This demonstrates their ability to think critically and make informed decisions. Include a scenario where students analyse potential outcomes of their strategies. Get them to justify why they have made the point they have made. Those points of ideas, really. I'm going to, just because of time, that one takes a little bit longer, and not everyone may have access to that one. So thinking about exam questions as well, this one has actually come from students, where students have been using quite early on, not last summer, the summer before, students were using generative AI to create mock exam questions for them for their revision. So for this one, you're acting as an exam questions author for an AQA level biology. Draft realistic exam questions that could appear in official AQA paper. Use the following guidance to match the format and standard expected in AQA assessments. And then here I've copied and pasted in the publicly available information on their website. So I've copied in and pasted in the question papers. And again, quite quickly, it is giving me a question, marks, and a new vaccine has been developed, for example, a rubric as well, so the student can mark themselves against a rubric as well. So, you know, I would review this, but it's interesting to see how learners have actually been using this to get ready for their exams. Would you like me to generate a mark scheme and model answer for this question? Yes, please. Now, you know, it's making those suggestions to you, and a simple prompt back, yes, please. So we've got the mark scheme. Now, examining officers quite often will not use generative AI to write questions as well, but just to point out that it's just a few ideas on how students are using this. Can you provide me with a graph? Because one of the questions actually referred to a graph, so the student's ideally going to need that. And quite quickly, he says, we have a graph that the student could refer to as part of their question as well. So yeah, a few ideas there. Now you might obviously give the previous ones in the past papers already, but it's just those ones who are can have some more. Okay, right, let's find some. And then yes, include it in a mock exam paper, so then I could format it into an exam paper. That would take a while before I'd have to copy and paste and put it all together. And then we've got to download the exam paper, and we download it and we've got it into a paper. I might change the formatting. For example, ideally I don't want to print it off, but you know, it's an idea. So I don't know if you use Teams, but this is one that's actually they've integrated AI within Microsoft Teams. It's integrated into many different areas, but I wanted to demonstrate this one around writing assignments. Now, this is an example where I'm writing an assignment, I'm creating my assignment on Teams, so my students would upload it to Teams and go on to there. Canvas has a similar, and Blackboard has similar, but I had access to Teams, so I thought I'd pop this one in. Here we have an assignment, and the assignment is called The Role of Social Media in Shaping Public Opinion During an Election. Quite an interesting topic. And I have popped in there my my information. So based on prior research, what the students would like to do, what I need them to do, submit a 500-word summary of their position. Now, Teams has included generative AI tools at the bottom, so I can add details, so it will expand on that text that I've written, add a step, add sparkle. The sparkle one's interesting. It changes the language to be a bit more upbeat, but I want it to be nice and clear for them. Add learning objectives. So I could ask it to generate me some learning objectives for this, and quite quickly, learning objectives. Develop and articulate a well-rounded argument regarding influence of social media on public opinion during the election. I always need to review it, and that's why it's got the keep it or not. Then we can ask for it to break down the steps as we saw on there. So it's breaking it down: conduct your research, develop your argument, prepare a debate, write a summary, and so on. Again, whether I use it or not is up to me. I could then use AI, the AI generating tools in there to create a rubric as well for this. So this could be a mock. Doesn't obviously, we'd have the rubric already from assessment bodies, but this might be part of my formative assessment. So I've got my title, I've got my the language I would like, and then I'm popping in my learning objectives that were generated earlier on within Teams. Now, the levels, again, it doesn't necessarily know the UK versions, but I've gone for university in this one. And then a rubric. I can have a number of different grading criteria, so excellent, good, fair, or I can customize it, and I can upload one. So with what criteria would you like? And I can then choose if I'd like it, which skills I would like to be included. So for this, I'm choosing all of them. And then it will generate a rubric for me quite quickly. And then when I'm marking the assignment, I can then, when they've uploaded to Teams, I can then tick this off. And tick which one they've got. So it's given me a rubric, clarity, coherence, and summary. The summary is got excellent, well organized, good is mostly organized. Now it's created that in American English summary, but you can edit it. We've got a number of different elements to my rubric there. Again, just maybe a formative piece of assessment. I could then attach this and then assign it out to my students. I could then adjust the language. Oh, and we're going to adjust it as well. It will adjust, for example, to Welsh as well. So we can think about, obviously, learners in different languages and then assign it to the learners. So I saw that one and thought, actually, that might be quite useful for people. AI can also visualize data. This is where I think it can be quite useful. Here is a data set of monthly borrowing trends of books, journals, and ebooks. Create a grouped bar chart to compare the trends by the category for each month. Include a title, label access, and a legend to distinguish the categories. So this would be a task that I would usually traditionally use Excel for. I've got my data, I've just popped that in there, and this is just the borrowing trends for people. And I've popped in there. Now, it's generated that bar chart for me. I can see straight away that we've got our books in the blue, journals in the orange, and then ebooks. So we're just looking at when people are going into the LRC and using books. We can see at the bottom there is a problem there with January, February, March, the months along the bottom. So I could then ask, space out the label axis text. So at the bottom, I can't read that. That's not very useful information right now. And it will regenerate it and it will populate it like that. So in under 2 minutes, really, I've created that bar chart just to visualize it. I could then ask a little bit more. Highlight the months with the highest borrowing for each category. And it will generate that. Now we can obviously copy this once it's generated. I could then download it as an Excel file as well, or as a CSV file. It's highlighted December in the red. Perhaps I don't like the colours, or it's a bit too much. So, do be aware of it. But once I've downloaded it, I can then edit it as well. Canva I've mentioned a few times, and we've got nearly towards some questions now. But Canva is a free tool that many people use. Canva, they've also integrated generative AI within the tool. So some people who may think they've not been using AI actually have been using it. I would like to generate a poster about generative AI and education, so just on any topic. It will generate a design for you. I quite like this because I'm not particularly good at designs, but I'm going to choose this one. and then I can apply that template. Now that's nothing really new, but it has populated the text for me. Again, I would need to check the spelling, but I can use their magic write tool and shorten the text or rewrite the text. And this is where, the time saving takes effect, really. I could ask for it to shorten or fix the spelling, for example, but I've got a poster that I could put out there for students. Many people I know are using Notebook LM. Now, Notebook LM, you can upload. It's a large language model. Well, it uses large language model like ChatGPT, or it actually uses Google Gemini. But with Notebook LM, for teaching, it's quite useful because I can upload my documents. Now, here is a load of, I've got 6 resources about AI literacy, for example. I've written them and I can upload them into Notebook LM, and then it'll act as a chatbot, but it will only look up to that information. So it's not looking off to elsewhere on the internet, it's just looking up to that information. So if any of that information is out of date, that's on me rather than on the chatbot. But learners could then start to create content from it. So they could ask questions, they could really delve down into the information. This is quite useful, I suppose, where we've got 6 big PDF documents or 6 documents to read through and thinking, oh my goodness, when am I going to have time to read that as well? So you can ask it to summarize information. So here I'm going to interact with it and I'm going to ask, what are the downsides of AI? And it will respond just like ChatGPT or a chatbot on a website, and it will look only up into those 6 documents. It will provide me the reference. So number 1, for example, is what is AI. Number 2 is how AI systems are made. So we can start asking questions around it. So a different way to interact with the information there. And then also we can keep asking. We can also create, I'm going to play this for you, podcasts.
All right, diving into the world of AI today. And from the looks of your notes and articles, you're really trying to get deep into this.
Yeah, seems like you want to go way beyond the headlines with this one.
All right, diving into the world of AI today.
Apologies.
All right, diving into the...
Pause. There we are. So this basically, it's created a podcast based on my 6 documents. It's not going off elsewhere, but it's something that I could listen when I'm walking the dog on such a nice day as well, like today. Instead of having to read all the way through the PDF documents, it will summarize it. There are risks that it misses out information, key information. I would say that, so I'd still probably go back and scan it. We know that the AI is not infallible, but certainly a way, if I just needed to read through a document, maybe an idea that we could use it for. So in summary then, I would say try to find time to start using an AI tool. With the data worries and concerns, use it as the same as you would any other IT system within your organization. Use the approved tools that have been approved by your organization. If you're using a tool like Canva, like I showed there, you're not going to enter any personal data into there, so just be aware of that. If you're generating things like images, think first before you generate the image. If that image already exists, do I need to create another one? These tools, as we looked at yesterday, or we're going to look at in other sessions if you can join us, do use quite a bit of energy when it comes to image generation. Text generation is quite a bit smaller. We look at things like actually Netflix, and watching an hour of Netflix has a much larger impact than just using ChatGPT. It's all about a balance. Find time to play with them. Think about things that you would like to try. I would be honest and open with them. Explore what they're good at and not so good at. They might also not be good at something today, but their capability is ever changing. So it might be much better in 6 months' time. So be aware of it and critically assess it. We also have 2 online learning modules that are available to you for free, and you can sign up for these and you do them on an online basis. They're in Teams, actually. They're online learning courses. They're about half an hour to an hour to complete. You can sign up for them and then you've got a month to complete it, and you get to talk to everybody, with other people. There's discussions in there. We pop in there and we also answer questions and as well, but there's 2. One called Artificial Intelligence and Ethics, and then an Introduction to Generative AI in Education, which I'll actually be updating over the summer. I mentioned as well our community session, and hopefully these will be going, the link to join it will be going into the chat. You get a link to a form, and then you can sign up and then you get an invitation. We also have a mailing list, and the mailing list is aIED@jiscmail.ac.uk that you can sign up for, and then all our training opportunities, all our blogs, all our information comes out and it'll be emailed out to you. So as well, have to sign up for that one. So I think we've got a bit of time now for questions, if there have been any. that have come in.